Rev up your engines!
Why not to buy a Kia or Hyundai? Well, I just got an email from a guy who's a service advisor at the dealer. He says, you'd be amazed at the crap that we get in here. He's got pictures of an engine, and it's all clean inside. The oil's been changed and maintained. This is about the cleanest 60,000-mile valve trim I've ever seen. 60,000 miles in the engine shop. A 2019 Tucson, only 49,000 miles, and the engine blew up. And this guy's a service advisor. You see him all the time. Kind of reminds me of a guy I know in Rhode Island. He works at an Audi dealer, right? And he told me, he said, Scotty, those horrible 2.0 turbos that they put in them, he says, they just blow up all the time, and then we're swapping them out. And I like getting the inside information from people who actually work there that are going to tell you the truth, you know. They said, please don't use our names. Well, I didn't use their names, right? Engines with 60,000, 49,000 miles blowing up. That just shows total lack of quality. And as the guy said for the first engine, he said it was whistle clean. The guy changed the oil and everything. He did everything he was supposed to, but the engine blew up anyways. So maybe stay away from Korean cars, unless you like exploding cars, in which case you'll love them. Well, Ford's now revealing the 2025 Maverick pickup with new technologies and new hybrid options. It's a big seller for Ford. This is kind of interesting. It's about one of the only things they've made that's popular. Now, of course, the price is up. 2022, they claiming they were $20,000. Now they're $26,295 average for a basic one. The same time last year as this year, they made 77% more of them. They're building a bunch of them. People are buying them. As Ford said, halfway through this year, we're almost equal to what our full year sales were last year. So they're selling them. And Ford is also saying, this is very interesting, 80% of the people buying these Mavericks, it's the first time they ever bought a pickup truck. Now, people like the convenience of a little pickup truck, right? Well, the interesting thing about the Mavericks is they all have two sets of seating, the front and the back. They don't make, as far as I've ever seen, a Maverick that isn't front and rear seating, not just the two cab in the front. You can either get all-wheel drive or front-wheel drive. The front-wheel drive system, of course, rides much better than the old trucks with the rear-wheel drive bouncing around. They do handle more like cars. I've driven around, and they do handle a lot more like cars. And, of course, for a pickup truck, if you get a hybrid, they get phenomenal gas mileage, which is something you never get in a pickup truck, right? So this is kind of an interesting combination. Ford hit the nail on the head on that. Since everybody's pushing big, 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 they decided to go small, and guess what? Hey, they're really selling them. 77% more than last year. It only makes sense. People start getting smaller. Instead of making bigger, 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 a lot of people don't want bigger. 80% of the people who bought them, it's their first pickup truck. So they don't want a big pickup truck. They like a little pickup truck. So this whole myth of Americans want giant pickup trucks, no, they like small ones too. Especially if they ride more like a car and you can fit a family in them. Well, Tesla's at it again. They've recalled 1.8 million vehicles because guess what? The hoods might fly open when you're driving, obscure your vision. I had that happen to a friend of mine at an Austin Healey years ago. The hood came up and he was lucky it was a convertible that he was able to push kind of some of it out of the way and stop so he could see what he was doing. And the problem here again is, guess what? Electronics. The hood can be open and it's supposed to warn you, but the warning doesn't work. So you be driving down the road with your hood partly open, then it just flies off and is going to block what you're seeing. Extremely fast cars, right? I mean, it's hilarious. These things are all electric cars and they have all these problems with what? Their electrical systems. Something seems to be really squirrely here. Now, this is 1.8 million of them. 2021 to 24 Model 3, Model S, Model X, and 2020 to 2024 Model Y vehicles. An unlatched hood can fully open if it's in motion. Bad things will happen. Right? Ever since I was a kid, they got hood latches with a safety catch, right? You open the hood latch, then boom, it hits the safety catch. Then you gotta go to the front of the car, pull, whatever way, some of them you pull, some of them you push. Then you can open the hood. Don't they have safety latches on these things? Kind of makes you wonder about what they're making with these Teslas. Did they just throw these things together with no thought of engineering? Well, it's a sad day for cars. Recaro, the famous seat maker, has gone bankrupt. Everybody, when I was young, we wanted a Recaro seat. Racing seats, really comfortable, beautiful looking. Well, Recaro Automotive, which is actually a German company. You'd think it was a name like Recaro, it would be Italian, but no. It's a German company. They've been making seats for over 6 decades. The company still employed over 1,000 people, but Now they're filing for bankruptcy. Now, a lot of high-performance cars came with them. Aston Martin, Volkswagen, even fancy Fords. And it made all kinds of aftermarket seats. A lot of guys, I want to put a Recaro seat in it because they're real comfortable. And they look cool, too. Now it's bankruptcy filing, so for the time being, they're still being able to make seats, but who knows what's going to happen. Kind of makes you wonder. I guess what it comes down to is if you really think about it, cars are more technologically advanced, right? So the seats in the cars have airbag sensors and the weights that weigh you to say how much to fire the airbag. So if it's a light person, it doesn't fire as much as with a heavy person, and on and on. Well, if you replace those seats with the Recaro seats, it's not going to work, right? Doesn't have all the wiring and software and sensors and stuff. And that's probably what killed them off. Of all the safety regulations, and these are just seats, you just bolt your old one and bolt the new ones in. It's going to fit any of that computer stuff. So that's probably what finished them off. Well, here's a really weird one. You see those cylinders? Those are sails. And they're working on cylindrical sails to propel ships. Now, they say that they can cut fuel consumption up to 90%. Well, that's a big myth. That's on small boats. They said on the big ones, the max would be 50%. But the interesting thing about it is, these babies don't have any moving parts, so they're not going to wear out. You get ones that spin and stuff. Hey, bearings, things are going to wear out. These have a very weird design where they have inlets, and then it compresses the air and it shoots out the other side, so it's propelling it kind of like a jet engine. Much slower, of course, but a very interesting bit of technology. They're really tall, and they're saying that, well, when they go to bridges or something, they can shrink them down and then put them back up when they go back out to sea. It's called co-flow jet, and they use the name jet because basically it's sucking air in, compressing it, and shooting it out the back. That's how jet engines work. They're basically giant blowers. They suck air in, the turbines spin like mad, and they blow it out the back. Now, of course, these don't have moving parts, so it's a completely different design, but the same principle. They take air in the front, and then they shoot it out the back. Pretty interesting idea. They draw in air from the wind blowing across and through them and expend it at another part of the cylinder. They pressurize it using an impeller, then squirt it to the outlet, and makes thrust. And the thrust is the full length of these things. So the longer they are, the more thrust they have. That's why they're really tall, right? Now, this is just an experimental stage now, but hey, pretty interesting idea if it'll work out. Can amplify the wind and then shoot it out the back without any moving parts. There's nothing to wear out. Pretty interesting idea. We'll see how it goes as time passes. Well, the Japanese have now made methods they can turn plastic into oil. CFP is a Japanese company, and it started with mechanical recycling, but now they use chemical recycling, and they turn waste plastics into what's called pyrolysis oil. And that can be the raw material for making ethylene that you can burn when you're driving cars. Here's the problem I found with all this stuff. It's a chemical process. What kind of waste comes out of this? Do they put more energy in it than they ever get out? I knew a guy who managed a recycling company outside of Houston, Texas, when the Obama administration was in. They got millions from the Obama administration because it was a recycling company. They were recycling car tires and car seats and turning them either into expensive shingles or fence posts that will never rot. The problem is, it was all sponsored by the government. So much energy was wasted. Tires have steel belts built into the rubber, very hard to get it out, so they had to freeze them with liquid nitrogen, then smash them, then the magnets would take the metal out and they could recycle the rubber and recycle the metal. But it was such an energy wasting system. Cost of their products were still the most expensive fence posts, the most expensive shingles. But as soon as the Obama administration grants that they gave to them ran out, guess what? A year later, the company was bankrupt and was gone because it was an inefficient process. You can recycle just about anything if you want. But if you're using so much energy recycling them, and this is a chemical process, who knows what side pollutions are, you might be better just taking the plastic and throwing it in a hole in the ground, burying it. It's just going to sit there, right? As a lot of this stuff is so inefficient, it wastes so much energy and it creates such a byproduct of pollution than it is to spend all this money and energy and have pollution byeffects to recycle something. Same thing goes with those wind turbine blades. They got tons of these fiberglass things that are no good anymore and they got piled up everywhere. Say, well, we can recycle this fiberglass. They use such nasty chemicals to take it apart. You're better just saying, forget it, just bury them in the ground, leave them there. We're polluting it by trying to turn it back into its basic components using all kinds of nasty chemicals. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.